Today, Nally Elementary would like to recognize all of our September Leaders of the Month. We are so proud of these students for their outstanding leadership in the classroom, the playground, the lunchroom, and also always displaying the 7 habits here at Nally School. Today, we will recognize each student in each grade level and tell you a little something about them. Okay, starting off in kindergarten, in Mrs. Parton's class, we have Anderson Smith. Anderson synergizes. Wow, Anderson has been so helpful and kind to our class. He models how to follow direction and is eager to help his peers when they are unsure. Also in Mrs. Parton's class, we have Emerson Snyder, who is proactive. Emerson is a great leader in Mrs. Parton's classroom. She comes in with a bright smile and ready to work hard. She loves to help others. Emerson has such a beautiful, kind heart. We are blessed to have her.
In Mrs. Craig's class, we have Lorelei Parker. Lorelei is proactive. Lorelei has gotten off to a wonderful start to kindergarten. She has an amazing self-control, respect for others, and kindness. I'm excited to see her grow throughout the year. Way to go, Laura.
All right. Also in kindergarten, we have Mrs. Rankin's room, Tegan 6. Tegan is proactive. Tegan is a top-notch student. She comes to school each day, ready to listen and learn. She is a leader in room 103. Also in Mrs. Rankin's room, we have Bo Hall, who is proactive. Bo is a great leader in room 103. He is proactive and gets his work done in a timely manner. He is a pleasure to have in kindergarten. In Mrs. Zukowski's class, we have Aubrey Largent. Aubrey is proactive. Aubrey truly leads by example. She is a great listener and helps others make great choices too. Keep up the great work, Aubrey.
And also in Mrs. Zukowski's class, we have Holden Huggins. Holden is proactive. Holden has such a kind heart. He can be seen helping his friends throughout the day. He also chooses to say encouraging things to his classmates. Way to go, Holden.
In first grade, we're going to start with Mrs. Rector's room, and it is Alexander Majeski who is proactive. Alexander is proactive in our first grade classroom. He listens and follows directions the first time they are given. He also uses the appropriate voice level in the hallway. You're a star, Alex. Also, we have Bryn Porter in Mrs. Rector's room, who puts first things first. Bryn puts first things first in our classroom. She comes to school prepared and ready to work hard. Bryn's assignments are neatly done and turned in on time. Way to go, Bryn.
In Mrs. Beard's class, we have Charlie Perso. Charlie is proactive. Charlie has shown he is proactive each day by being the first student to give me the quiet sign, pushes in his chair, picks up our classroom, and helps a friend. Amazing job, Charlie. Also in Mrs. Beard's class, we have Amelia Boyd. Amelia puts first things first. Amelia has shown puts first things first by getting her work done and doing her best. Amelia takes her time and always completes things neatly. Way to go, Amelia.
In Mrs. Bowser's room, we have Harper Mydock, who is proactive. Harper always follows the classroom rules and sets a good example by putting up the peace sign and quiet sign. Also in Mrs. Bowser's room, we have Rennick Smith, who is proactive. Rennick is always well behaved and respectful. He is helpful and pushes his classmates' chairs in if they forget. In Mrs. Fiesler's room, we have Nikolai Simonson. Nikolai thinks win-win. Nikolai is always trying to make good choices and encourage others to do so too. Way to think win-win, Nikolai.
Also in Mrs. Fiesler's class, we have Lily Folden. Lily is proactive. Lily always does her best work and is in charge of herself.
Good job, Lily. Okay, moving on to second grade, we're going to start with Mrs. Grandin's class, and our first leader of the month is Logan 6. Mrs. Grandin said Logan is putting first things first and synergizes. She said, I've seen Logan displaying all 7 habits already. Mr. Ott and I have even spotted her looking out for others and putting up her others' chairs when they forgot to do so. Also, Jacob McCullough. Jacob is proactive. Mrs. Grandin said, I've spotted Jacob in situations that he could be reactive, but instead he stops and thinks and makes proactive choices.
In Mrs. Truax's class, we have Zane Maugher. Zane is proactive. Zane is a very proactive student each and every day. He goes beyond the ordinary and is a wonderful leader in our room. We also have Daphne Foss. Daphne begins with the end in mind. Daphne often begins with the end in mind while in class. She is also prepared at all times, and she is a great role model to those who are around her. We are so lucky to have Daphne in our class.
In Mrs. Slimak's class, we have Anna Wayman, who shows us all 7 habits. Anna is a wonderful leader in room 116. She is settled in quickly and leads by example. She's a great listener and loves to help in any way she can.
We also have Gracie Schaffner. Grace is proactive and puts first things first. Gracie is an amazing second grade leader. She is proactive and puts first things first each day. She comes to school ready to learn and tackle any task she's given.
Great job, Gracie Schaffner. In Mrs. Van Dorsten's room, we have Riker Vinson. Riker puts first things first. Mrs. Van Dorsten said Riker is always following directions and paying attention in class. Good job, Riker.
We also have Kaylin Gore. She is proactive. Kaylin is very helpful in the classroom and took it upon herself to finish the work she was behind on when there was downtime.
Way to go, Kaylin. Okay, moving on to 3rd grade. In Mrs. Braley's room, we have Grayson Porco. Grayson is proactive and synergizes. Grayson is striving to do his best in 3rd grade. Often he helps friends, volunteers to help in the classroom, and loves doing his job at the end of the day. I am so proud of his effort in 3rd grade. Way to go, Grayson.
Next, we have Reagan Graham. She is proactive and puts first things first. Reagan comes into school each day ready to learn and proactively completes her work. She has a positive attitude for learning and lends a helping hand to friends. Thank you, Reagan. You are off to a great start in 3rd grade.
In Mrs. Stasnis's room, we have Aubrey Wyrick. Aubrey puts first things first and seeks first to understand. Aubrey has been a model student so far in 3rd grade. She is always ready to go with her materials, and more importantly, she really thinks about what she can say to add to our learning. Good job, Aubrey.
Next, we have Maverick Sleuth. Maverick puts first things first. Maverick is always one of the first students to be ready to go each day. He listens and remembers our routines so we are all ready. Keep up the good work.
Up next is Mr. Straub's class. We have Caroline McDonald, who thinks win-win. Caroline is off to a great start. She completes her assignments first, then she can often be found helping out in the classroom. She is truly a team player. Keep working hard.
Next, we have Mason Calvert. Mason synergizes. Mason synergizes daily with his positive attitude towards learning. He is polite and cooperative with both teachers and peers. I am very proud of his good manners and kindness. Next, we have Jameson Morris. He puts first things first. Jameson is such a strong student. He is always participating in class. He is brave by always raising his hand to try and answer questions. Keep it up. Those are characteristics of a great leader.
Moving on to Mrs. Esterly's room, we have Audrey Flynn. Audrey puts first things first. Audrey begins her day ready to learn. She is new to Nolly and has proved she has what it takes to be a leader and a true Panther.
Next, we have Brendan Effinger. He is proactive. Brendan is always thinking ahead. He plans for the week and completes his task one at a time. Good job, Brendan.
Amaria Winston, Mrs. Tooth's class. Amaria is proactive. Amaria is a great 4th grader. She is always positive and kind and friendly for all her classmates and respectful to all adults. And also in Mrs. Tooth's class, we have Carl Parcell. Carl thinks win-win. Carl has such a positive attitude. What a great start to your 4th grade year. Raina Neese in Mrs. Gardner's class and Mrs. Hansel's class. Raina seeks first to understand. Raina is to a fantastic start in 4th grade. She has even made the effort to help a kindergarten student who was lost in the hall. Keep up the good work, Raina. And also in Mrs. Gardner's class is Colton Wise. Colton is proactive. Colton is a great kid with a great attitude about school. He comes into our classroom every day with a smile and a positive outlook. He's going to be a great year for Colton. Caleb Selowski in Mrs. Madsen's class. Caleb is proactive. Caleb takes charge of his behavior and actions throughout the day. He listens and does what he is asked of him.
Also, we have in Mrs. Oaks' class, Jace Score, who is proactive. Jace is off to a great start in 4th grade. He has a classroom leadership role that he never forgets, and a classmate caught him doing good things in the lunchroom. Way to go, Jace. Also in Mrs. Oaks' class, we have Molly Foss. Molly begins with the end in mind and puts first things first. Molly is a quiet leader. She is always doing the right thing at the right time, and she doesn't make a big show about it. She is a great role model. Next, we have Hannah Schindler from Mrs. Millville. Hannah begins with the end in mind. Hannah begins with the end in mind because she comes in early every school day for extra tutoring. She also goes to additional tutoring with Mr. Gray. Hannah's goal is to be an excellent reader, and she is doing just that by working so hard. We are so proud of you, Hannah. Thank you to Kennedy Garrett and Cole Neugebauer for helping me make this video today. They are great leaders at Nolly School. Congratulations to all of the Nolly Leaders of the Month. The entire staff here at Nolly is so proud of you. Please keep up the great work and your outstanding leadership. Way to go!